Well, Lori, thank you for joining me today. We got a lot to talk about. We got a beautiful new book, well, second edition of the M Word here that I want to dive into with you, of course. But before we do all that, I'd love to learn just a little more about you and maybe hear about how you got excited about finance.
Well, I'm originally a musician, a pianist, and I studied music. And I went on to get a master's. And then my mom passed away when I was 24. And I thought, wow, maybe I need to do something different. So I put myself into business school, and I didn't intend to have a financial career. I was originally in marketing and advertising, but eventually I went back to school at night to get my CPA, and I got a number of licenses. And I just built on it over time. And now I love what I do. It's a great path for me. And you just never know where you're going to end up, right?
Ain't that the truth? 100%. And this bad boy is actually your second edition. So, out of curiosity, why the update? Why did we need the second one?
I had written the first one because I was seeing how families and my clients were not having productive conversations with successful outcomes. And so I put together a process for people to follow, right? And that was my first book. It was a set of guidelines. Then I did my second, which was a workbook to go with it. And then, of course, here we are, fast forward to 2023. And, it's post-COVID. We're in a different world. I do see there's more attention to the topic. I see it in the media, financial services industry, and even popular culture. But I'm not seeing some serious discourse, and I'm still seeing families struggle. And there's a huge generational shift taking place. The millennials are now the major working population demographic in the country. So I felt it was really time to, speak to a new generation and speak about the post-COVID world, and hopefully give people further insights and, help them with these difficult conversations. Because if you don't have them, you have the risk of losing family relationships and money during difficult transitions.
Absolutely. Well, I love that you did a second one because you're so right. Since COVID specifically, but even just in the past 10 years, so many things have changed that you may just have to do an edition every decade, Laura. I hate to tell you.
I don't know about that, but I'm glad. I really am having a lot of fun, and it's great to see that it's being received so well, because I'm doing talks with you and other individual talented individuals like you all over the country. So thank you.
Thank you, Lori. You're awesome. And as you kind of mentioned before, money is something that is ruining relationships. It's tearing up families. Why do you think that is? What is the root of that?
Well, money is still a taboo topic. It's an object of threat and control for a lot of people, and it doesn't really have to be that way. So I try to explore all the reasons, from culture to family history to gender to all the reasons, also issues around trust and control that are just above the surface. I try to explore them because really what I want to do is have the reader and the listener figure out why it's difficult for their family to have these conversations. They differ by family. And the hope is, because there's a 70% failure rate in transferring assets across generations, breakdown in communication and trust is the primary reason. The hope that as I can help families build trust, better communication, so they can avoid those pitfalls.
Yes, well, you're certainly doing that with this book. Absolutely, Lori. And as we know, there's plenty of differences between men and women generally, but how about on this topic? How do we differ about money?
Yes, what I have discovered through my research is that it's partly environmental, right, built into our DNA, but it's also physiology. Our brains are different, and they operate differently. And so as a result, we're going to have differences around priorities and goals, about risk tolerance and investment strategies, and ultimately about conversations and talking about the topics that come up. And what I try to tell people, this is universal, it's not individual, it's supported by a million participants in over 30 countries and dozens of studies. And it tends to be the case regardless of location, language, geography, etc. So at the end of the day, I try to explain that you need both minds to make great decisions, right? You need all genders to make great decisions, but you need to respect the differences and understand them.
Absolutely. It's so interesting. At what point in a relationship, Lori, would you recommend having this talk? When should this begin?
Well, certainly if you're thinking about joining households, either living together or getting married, I try to explain to people that money is central to everything we do. And we come with a family money history. We come with money personalities that have been passed down through generations. We come with different lifestyles, different preferences, different goals. So the point is to have an open and transparent conversation, put out, disclose the assets and liabilities, right? Talk about your values and goals. Talk about the basics. Are you going to merge? Are you going to separate assets? How are you going to spend? How are you going to invest, et cetera? But then you want to go deeper and really talk about your history with money, your family history with money. You want to talk about any lifestyle compromises that need to be made. And you really want to try and make sure that you understand where each person is coming from. And are there any negotiating points that need to be made before you enter into this relationship in a more serious way?
For sure. And I know that can be scary for some people, so that's why you've put together this awesome guide to really help out with that. In the book, you discuss a 5-step process. Can you dive a little bit into what that is?
Right. So I start with the transition point is number one. You need to identify what transition you're going through. Is it because you're entering into a new relationship on a serious level? Is there a change in financial circumstances, whether up or down? Are you dealing with an aging loved one? A healthcare crisis? How about retirement or transferring assets, doing some estate planning? Those are just examples of transition points. You need to pick the one. Could be different, but you need to identify what's the transition point, and that will inform you of the topics that you need to talk about. The second step is what I call prepare the inner landscape. That's basically trying to figure out what are the reasons why you and your loved ones are having a difficult time having this conversation. Is it gender politics? Is it family history? Is it age? Is it language? Is it trust issues, control? I mean, there's a whole host, and I try and give a whole laundry list for people to choose from. And the point is, as I said earlier, make sure you know what's interfering with you having these conversations. And then you want to, what I call prepare the outer landscape. This is actually preparing for the talk. And I talk about answering the questions, the what, who, when, where, why, and how. So what's the transition? What are the topics that you need to talk about? Who needs to be a party to this conversation? When's the best time? Where? Can you find a mutual place where it's not going to create stress for everyone? It's a safe and comforting place for people to talk about a serious topic, right? Why is it so important? Is there a potential loss of money? Is there a family conflict that we need to resolve? And then how? How do you actually conduct it? And I give obviously some how to do that, but also how to resolve conflict, because people will go into their inner child, right? Oftentimes when that money topic goes up, and then things kind of, they fall apart. They could. So, and then the fourth is I talk about asking for help, because if this is a topic that's going to be difficult for you, maybe there's a friend, another family member, a professional that you can bring in as a third party. Could be the accountant, the attorney, the financial advisor, someone that has knowledge, skills, understands the dynamics of the family, and can really help keep the conversation on track, because things can break down pretty quickly, when you're trying to deal with some messy topics that are very touchy in family units. And then the fifth one is I say create a process and repeat it. So figure out what's the best way for you to do this. You're not going to get to where you need to be in the first conversation, but have multiple conversations and create a disciplined process for having them. And I think you'll have a higher probability of success in the outcome and being able to transition through that stage of your life or whatever the event is successfully.
Absolutely. I love that the last step is repeat because I think that is important for people to remember is doesn't stop at one conversation. We're
Yeah,
growing, we're evolving, we got to keep talking about it. You also touched a little bit on
got it.
yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, there's a little bit of a lag here, Lori. You also mentioned your inner child, what I thought was really cool because she comes out and freaks out during these conversations for sure, but it doesn't have to be that way. So I'm curious, at what point in a child's life should a parent start having conversations like this with them?
Well, it depends. I mean, if you're talking about young children, right? I usually say around the age of 10, when they're starting to hear and read and learn about money in school, right? Because there's plenty of schools that are actually introducing financial literacy at a very early age. And then, of course, you want to do it when the child is, of course, but it has to be age appropriate when the child is able to receive the information. And you can provide opportunities to engage your kids in exercises to help them learn good money skills, right? As your kids get older, oftentimes they want to approach the parents because they see things that are happening. Maybe your parents getting older. Maybe you're worried about your parents' health, right? And that, and of course, maybe you're also putting together your estate planning. You're trying to help. You need to have conversations with your adult kids. So I usually say, when you have adult kids and they're ready to process, they're mature and ready to process the information. It'll vary by age and kid, right? Mm-hmm. But clearly, you want to start to help them understand your financial picture and what roles and responsibilities they may play down the road. And the best time to do this is when you don't have an emergency situation, and you put together an agenda, you share the information, you get feedback, and you can have a productive conversation without all that extra stress that comes from someone getting sick, a death in the family, et cetera. Yeah.
Absolutely. Want to talk about these things when there's not a crisis, right? Don't want to think about it when there is, for sure. That's great advice. Lori, thank you for providing this guide for us. We even got a few books that we're going to give away to some lucky listeners, so I'm sure they'll be excited to snag one.
Right.
Yes, but what is next for you, Lori? Is there another book in the works? What are you up to?
Well, right now I'm busy talking to people like you around the country and doing some radio and TV, and I'm just trying to get the message out because I think it's been sort of a passion and a personal mission of mine because I personally have experienced, I see it in a lot of people around me with clients, et cetera. They don't necessarily understand how important it is to have these conversations. They don't understand the consequences if you don't think through different options and decisions carefully, considering all the options, and then engaging family members in these conversations before things happen. And so I'm just trying to put out some good sound advice for people to actually think about. And I love the fact that millennials and Gen Zers are so open to this. Like when I put my book out, like over 10 years ago, the baby boomers and the silent generation, they weren't that pleased with the concept. I mean, but I see this sort of openness to the next generations, and there is a shifting not only in the workforce generationally, but assets are being transferred now at another generational level. So I'm thrilled because your generation, I'm assuming you're a millennial, right?
Yes,
or Gen Z,
am.
one of those. And you're savvier about money. You're more open to these conversations. And, I'm happy to provide the input so you can make some good choices around having them and good money decisions for everybody.
That's awesome, Lori. Well, we certainly appreciate the work that you're doing. That's awesome. And I agree. I do think generations coming up are more open. And I also hope things are changing maybe in schools a little bit too, because I always thought, I wish I learned more about finances in just primary school instead of having to teach myself so much after. But we're getting there. We're evolving.
You are. And, I have spoken to teacher groups around the country, another organization in California that works with parents to try and help educate them about how to educate their kids about money and other matters. So there is a huge interest in this. And of course, I see a lot of teaching at not just the high school level, but middle school and even younger. I know even when my kid was growing up, I'm not a millennial. Anyway, when my kid was growing up, he had an exercise in elementary school. He was asked to put together a trip around the world, and it didn't matter how much it cost. We want you to go online and find out what things cost. And of course, he and one of his best friends spent $1 million on paper going all around the world. They even hired a bus to come pick them and their friends up. I mean, literally, this stuff was about to go live and it had to get shut down. But, kids are open about this. And I think there's certainly a generational shift to be more open about teaching it and helping kids and adult kids have a better understanding of what money matters are within the family. So it's good.
Well, we appreciate your contribution to that, Lori, because this book is awesome. The OG and the second edition, but definitely everyone watching, get the updated one. Just came fresh off the presses, Lori. Still smells fresh.
Well, it probably was.
Yes,
you got it.
Yes. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today, Lori, and we appreciate everything you do.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me, Hallie. It was fun. Or is it Haley? Hallie or Haley?
Haley, like the comic.
I like that. That's a good association. So, okay. Again, and I appreciate your time today.
Oh, thank you, Lori. Same to you. You take care.
Okay.
Bye.
That was good. You are very effusive.
I'm very what?
Effusive. You're very ebullient. It's great.
You're teaching me a new word, Lori. I've never heard that one. I love it.
You are.
I'm going to put that in my vocabulary, and thank you. You're teaching me more than one thing today.
No, you're really great. I had a radio show for a few years.
I saw that online about you.
I had a radio show, and I have to say, you can have, I certainly wasn't as I didn't have your personality, but I think it's helpful to have that type of personality when you're interviewing people, right? The enthusiasm is contagious.
Oh.
So anyway, listen, thanks for having me. Good luck with your money.
Thank you, Lord. I need all the help and luck I can get. So thank you so much.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.